Okay, thank you very much for bearing with us. Let's get started with today's session. So the agenda for today is that we're going to go through a brief look at Meraki, a little bit of history, understanding how Meraki fits into the overall Cisco world, where it sits in the portfolio, some of the things like that. And then the most important thing about today is we're going to look at the case studies, the Tale of Three Cities. So we've got some pretty exciting and nice use cases for the Meraki technology, and we'll be spending quite a bit of time on those. We'll follow this up with a live demonstration, which will be recapping some of the features that we've discussed in the case studies and showing you how those work live using a production network. This is the Meraki network running our offices around the world. We'll be showing you how these customers achieved what they achieved using our network. And then finally, we're going to have a quick recap of the product families that are available, the different models of devices and what they offer. There will be a small bit of time for question and answers at the end, but we really would like you to ask the questions as we go through. It allows me to try and answer some of those in real time, especially if they relate to something that's currently showing on the screen. Now, the great thing about attending a Meraki webinar is that for eligible IT professionals, you will receive a free access point. So you'll receive a 802.11n Meraki access point with a 3-year cloud management license, which includes support. This is really a fantastic way to get started with the Meraki technology. You're going to be seeing all the things that these particular cities have done with the Meraki devices, and then you can give it a go yourself. So you can take this access point and you can set up in the office or in your classroom, or you can just take it home and have really fast, high performance enterprise Wi-Fi in your house, yet it's really easy to use and manage, which we'll be talking about extensively later on in today's session. Now, you do need to make sure you give us a call. So we send out many access points every week for all the webinars that we arrange, and we really want to make sure that they get to the right people. They don't get lost in transit, or they don't get shipped to the building next to you or something strange like that. So you do need to contact us to confirm your shipping details and your contact details with the Meraki rep before we send out the access point. So if you don't do that, then the access point won't get shipped and you'll be disappointed. So you can contact us using the rep contact details in the webinar reminder email. However, if you've lost this email or the spam filter has eaten it or something unfortunate like that, then please visit the Meraki website, go to the contact us section, and then you can choose relevant contact details for your particular area. Someone will be able to help you and point you in the right direction. So let's look a little bit about Cisco Meraki, and let's go back in time to 2006. So in 2006, the founders of Meraki were at MIT. They hadn't started a business at that time, and they were doing research into highly efficient wireless mesh technology. And they created this very good technology, which they presented at a number of technical conferences. And at one of those was some investors and technologists from Google who really liked the idea. They liked the idea of this highly efficient wireless mesh used to provide community or metropolitan-wide wireless using these small, low-cost nodes. And they said, great, well, let's buy some of these access points so we can have a look at it. Now, unfortunately, they didn't exist at that time. It was just a research project. But this didn't put them off. They decided to not only invest in the starting of the Meraki as a company, but also be the first customer for a batch of access points. So Google were the first investor and the first customer of Meraki, and the company was founded with just a couple of guys looking at this wireless mesh technology. And in the very early days, they came across some, I think we could call them fundamental truths, which turned into the product philosophy within Meraki. And I think it's important to consider those and their sort of origins, because it affects how we develop and how we produce all the products that you can now get from us today. So the first was that these wireless devices were being used by a mix of people. They weren't just being used by IT professionals or network engineers, they're also being used by consumers, small businesses, and other people who are not necessarily networking experts. And they found that if they were ever to have a successful business, they were going to spend enough time developing the product and doing other important things, then they couldn't spend all that time having to support users with a complex product. So they decided to put a lot of effort and a lot of time into making it very simple and easy to use. The focus was not necessarily on having 1,000 features, but it was in making the 100 features you had almost a no-brainer. You can just turn it on and it would work. It would self-configure. It would use all the best settings for your particular environment and then make your life much, much simpler. The second thing they found was because these devices were mesh devices, they were often in lots of different places, on tops of buildings, in different small offices, in people's homes. And so having to physically go to them or having some form of management that wasn't incredibly easy to use remotely was very, very time consuming. And they would, again, never be able to put any time into the business if they had to be running around all over the place trying to maintain, support, upgrade these devices. So from the very beginning, remote management and this ease of use were core fundamental concepts behind the Meraki technology. And so they built, way before cloud was even really a terminology that the industry had got used to, the cloud infrastructure, which is now used to control and manage all of the Meraki devices. When cloud wasn't the terminology that we use for these type of infrastructures, it was a highly scalable, highly distributed software platform for the management and control of the Meraki network devices. Now, the company grew very successfully. It was growing 100% year on year, and the wireless devices increased in their performance and the types available, branching out into education, local government, enterprise. And then we thought, well, why are we just using this philosophy of ease of use and remote management and simplicity in networking technology for just wireless? Let's apply it to other areas as well. And so we produced unified threat management devices, enterprise security, also a line of access switches and aggregation switches, and then also a mobile device management platform, all managed centrally from this one cloud infrastructure, all with the same philosophy about making your life as an IT or network administrator easier so you can meet your business or organizational needs. And in December of 2012, Cisco acquired Meraki for $1.2 billion. They'd seen the huge growth of cloud managed networking, and they'd seen the customer satisfaction with that type of deployment. And this was really a sort of stamp of approval from the industry leader that cloud managed networking was here to stay and was the future. And the acquisition was really quite an interesting one in terms of the benefits it brings to both Cisco and to the Meraki team. So for Cisco, it brings the industry's leading cutting-edge cloud-managed networking technology to the Cisco portfolio, but it also brings something else. So Meraki works in a very agile, software-centric, lean IT way. We have very small teams of very highly skilled people that can deliver things very, very quickly in a way that's traditionally not possible in such large organizations. And this has turned out to be a particularly important thing to remember when you see how Meraki has been integrated in Cisco as a whole, whereby we haven't been broken up and the engineering team have joined the engineering team in other parts of Cisco. Marketing has been split out, sales has been split out. We've been kept as one entity known as the CNG, or the Cloud Networking Group, which is a wholly contained center for innovation in cloud technologies based in San Francisco. Now, for Meraki, as I said, it was this sort of recognition of the power of cloud-managed networking, but also allowed us to grow in a way that was never possible before, leveraging the huge strength of the Cisco brand, the great expertise in the marketplace amongst Cisco professionals, and the huge community of customers and channel partners that are interested in and use Cisco technology. So it's really been a great partnership. Now, Meraki has been trusted by thousands of customers. We have a number of great brands and logos on this page, and we're going to go into more detail on a couple of those in a few slides' time. But why cloud networking? And also, what is cloud networking? Let's have a little look at that before we go into those. So the cloud networking architecture, well, as a technologist, I'm fed up with the word cloud. It's been taken by marketing teams to mean pretty much anything and everything that is cool and something you need to buy in IT today. So let's get a little more into the detail. So the Meraki cloud architecture, as I said earlier, is a highly scalable, highly distributed software platform for the management and control of Meraki network devices. It's not an appliance, it's not a virtual machine, it's not a server, it's not something that you can physically go and buy and put in your data center. It is a service that we run globally for all our customers, inherently scalable, multi-tenanted, secure, and resilient. And this is technology very similar to how Google, Salesforce.com, Facebook, these next generation software companies are developing infrastructure that can support thousands of customers, hundreds of thousands of customers, millions of customers seamlessly while providing very fast access to people's data and applications. There's huge benefits of having it this way, which we'll talk about on the next slide. But we then have the Meraki networking devices themselves, which talk to the cloud infrastructure purely for management and control. None of your data goes through the cloud, which is really important in terms of security, but also scalability and how we can support such a big infrastructure with such an efficient array of resources. So there's often a number of questions when we talk about cloud management, like, well, how does it work? And what's the communication to the cloud? Well, let's start off with having a look at the communication to the cloud. So the devices need to talk to the cloud to report analytics, all the information you're going to see in the demonstration of the Meraki Dashboard, which Meraki customers associate with the ease of use and their ability to understand how their networking is operating over this communication channel, which is encrypted, but none of your customer or client data goes over that. That's routed, forwarded, switched locally as it would do normally. This means we need a very small amount of data. We need, on average, 1 kilobit per second per Meraki networking device. So if you have 100 access points at a site, then you need to allocate about 100 kilobits per second of WAN bandwidth for them to communicate and be managed and operated by the cloud infrastructure. This is really a great challenge to be able to make such a powerful infrastructure use such a small amount of data, and there is no latency restrictions on it at all. You can run this over a satellite link, an 800 millisecond link. There's no issues with that whatsoever. And because we've been so efficient in how we've developed this over the last 7, 8, 9 years, then it allows us to have, in essence, for you as a customer, unlimited throughput and scalability. Well, nothing in this world is unlimited. There is still things having to grow behind the scenes, but you never have to worry about that as someone using Meraki technology. We're seamlessly growing and increasing that infrastructure in a way that is transparent to all the users on the system. So you can have 1 AP, 10 AP, or 10,000 access points, or 10,000 switches, or 500 security appliances. And it makes no difference to us and no difference to you in terms of the infrastructure that you need to deploy, apart from you just have more devices themselves. And we also maintain that ease of use and simplicity, plus the feature sets between both the very small and the very large customers. Typically, when you have a very small deployment, you either end up with a very feature-rich but very complex technology where all those features come at a cost, or you end up with a very simple technology which is simple to use but doesn't have all the things you need. The customers with 10,000 APs have the same ease of use and powerful tools that the customers with 1 AP do, and also the features between them as well. The second question we get is, well, what happens if the cloud isn't there? What happens if my WAN link goes down? What happens? Well, the cloud is itself highly reliable, numerous servers in multiple data centers, geographically dispersed, which ensures a very high level of resiliency and reliability. So generally what we see is people's WAN connection being the primary cause of disconnection from the cloud. If that happens, all your network devices continue to operate using their existing configuration. So during that time, you can't update the configuration from the cloud infrastructure because you can't talk to the devices, but they do continue to operate using their existing information. Now, they also try and store and buffer analytics and data about the network as it's running, and then re-upload that to the cloud when their link is returned. This fact that no user traffic goes through the cloud allows us to work with customers that generally have high security requirements, so healthcare where you need to be HIPAA compliant, or if you need to take credit card transactions, often in retail or other environments, so we can easily meet PCI compliance. And we have a number of third parties that provide security audits, daily penetration testing, and a security rewards program, which makes sure that we have a cloud infrastructure that can be used by any customer that needs a flexible and easy to manage network. So there are a number of networking challenges that are out there today. This slide really does not do justice to everything that is challenging IT teams, but we're going to have a look at just a couple of them. Start with the number of smart devices. Have you ever tried plugging a Cat5 cable into your iPad? It's going to be a pretty disappointing affair. There are just so many smart devices that now need to be connected, and users now have so many devices that I'm often seeing customers that have probably on average 2.5 devices per user, coming up to 3. You have a laptop, you have a work mobile phone of some kind, or a work tablet, and then you have a personal mobile device as well. And all of them expect to be connected, and they all expect to have the same level of performance as they do when they're at home. So this can be a real challenge, and you need to have a wireless platform, but not only a wireless platform, a network behind that wireless platform, which is fully integrated and can manage all of these things. And having something like built-in mobile device management that integrates with the network infrastructure provides great controls. And those controls are not just important to make sure everything is secure, but also to ensure the quality of the network based on the bandwidth consumption that we can see when you have things such as video and rich media now coming onto the network. Now, that isn't necessarily new, but the bandwidth requirements are now new. So as an example, you can stream 4K definition YouTube, and that's a 30 megabit video stream per user. So going from sort of 500 kilobits per second, which will allow you to stream normal definition YouTube, to 30 megabits per second is just a huge jump. And so you need to make sure you have application controls, you're able to do layer 7 quality of service, traffic shaping, and also to meet regulatory compliance with these controls in a very easy to use manner, all built into the network infrastructure. So let's go on to the case study. So first of all, we've got the town of Durham in New Hampshire. So it's a small municipality with around 8,000 permanent residents, but this does increase, the local population does increase up to around 14,000 due to the local university. The town itself has 5 active branches with a town hall serving as a main office, and there's around 80 members of staff. So not a huge organization, but they're going to have a lot of demands, a lot of things that they need to do. And so they're going to need a network infrastructure that offers all the features that a big organization may want, but they really need it to be easy to use. So they deployed a Meraki full stack throughout the town buildings. And when we use the terminology full stack, we're talking about buying multiple Meraki products, switches, security, wireless, and mobile device management. And the great thing about when you buy additional Meraki products is that they all integrate into the same interface. They're all controlled from this one portal known as Dashboard, which is the management and control for the Meraki cloud. The other thing is they all have a similar look and feel, and you'll see this when we go into the demonstration, which is you don't have to relearn a whole new interface. You don't have to relearn a different way of configuring things. It's just another drop down, another click box, and when you go in, it feels very, very similar. So there are a variety of use cases for wireless throughout the town. There's the town hall where people want to utilize the standard core business functions such as sending and receiving email. The public works department where they want to access maps and pull large files online. You're going to really need to make sure you have an infrastructure capable of supporting downloads of very large files, CAD files, building files, for example. There's also the police station where they want to access hosted records and management systems, but that needs to be secure. How can you ensure that when you're mixing these different types of traffics for local town hall staff, but also things that require greater security, such as the police station, how can you go about doing that? Well, Meraki makes that really easy by allowing numerous things to be built onto one network infrastructure. And in the UK, which is, as you may have heard from my accent where I'm from, there's this term called public service network, where rather than all these different entities going out and buying individual network infrastructures, having to have their own management teams and so on looking after that, is to combine this one network to allow cost savings and efficiency. But not just that, it's also to improve the interworking between all of these local resources. Well, there's also the public library providing staff and guest access using wireless for not only looking up records, but general internet access as well. They've saved a ton of money by not having to spend on, for example, an MPLS or a specific layer 2 connection between the town sites by utilizing the Meraki site-to-site VPN. And often a site-to-site VPN can be quite complex, but with the Meraki Auto VPN technology, all you need to do is say, I want a VPN, and it goes and builds that for you. And you can even do it with things like dynamic IP addresses, and it will work out any issues associated with the IP addresses changing. Again, I'll want to show you that in the demonstration. And we've got a great quote here from Luke, which says, with Meraki, we can view everything from one interface. This is the Meraki Dashboard. And that's really key for a small organization. To be able to consolidate management features into that single interface, that makes it all worth it. And from my personal experience of having to manage remote networks, that really is a great thing for me as well. So what were the results? Well, the cloud managed solution with a single pane of glass really reduced the amount of time they spent doing things and managing to get results much more quickly. They're able to monitor usage and clients across the whole network stack. They don't have to go into individual network interfaces, say for like a switch versus for like a firewall versus for like the IDS IPS. They can all see it mixed in together, all in one easy to use interface, which they can create automatic reports from. And they have advanced troubleshooting, and they've mentioned here inline packet capture. And now this is available on all the Meraki products, but for me, the most exciting thing is doing a live packet capture on a switch. And the reason for that is I can do a packet capture on a switch through my phone. And I just don't know how I would do that with any other networking product. If someone calls you, you're traveling, there's a really important issue, but you're not sure what it is, you can use things such as the live packet capture tool, get a quick trace of what's coming out the port on a switch. Maybe there's like a SIP signaling issue or a VLAN assignment issue. Well, you can see that semi-real time on your phone, and that is truly fantastic. Having to drive to site, create a port mirror, and then plug in your laptop is really a thing of the past. So let's move on to our next city. So this is the city of Rancho, and they are located in the Sacramento metropolitan area, home to roughly 65,000 residents. And they're going to be employing more people, about 120 people, employees and contractors, to provide services to the local residents. The two government buildings, the City Hall and the neighborhood services. So again, this is numerous Meraki products. I think you might start seeing a trend here, which is people look at Meraki for a particular need. Maybe it's MDM, maybe it's switching, maybe it's wireless, and then they understand that there is more from Meraki, not just that one particular product line. And when they investigate it, they see that same philosophy of remote management and ease of use carried over, and that really easy integration between the different platforms. They provide public Wi-Fi with open authentication for guests, and this is really a great, interesting way of understanding how your citizens are using the online services that you're providing. As more and more local government and also national government moves to online services, you need to ensure that everyone has access to it, and providing public Wi-Fi across the city is a great way of doing that. But they also want to have other SSIDs, so other wireless networks deployed, which enables them to be more efficient. So they have a hidden SSID for their city employees, and this is not open. This uses Active Directory to authenticate the particular users. Now, this could be because you want greater security, but then maybe you want the city employees to run a VPN anyway, so they could be from any remote site where there is internet connectivity. It could be more to do with quality of service, traffic shaping, and bandwidth controls. Because you don't want to provide a public Wi-Fi network where people just stop paying for home broadband because it's so good, and they're downloading, watching Netflix, or maybe BitTorrenting lots of content at the cost to you. So you want to provide connectivity for people, but you need to be able to control it as well. While with the staff, you probably want to give them more bandwidth. If they need a file quickly, you want them to be able to go and get that. They also have temporary SSIDs created for special meetings or events. And this is something that's so easy to do in Meraki. You could do it remotely in less than 5 minutes. And you can add really powerful controls, such as maybe you want to do SSID authentication using SMS. So you quickly create this new event, SSID, and then you can say, right, I want to authenticate people with text messaging. You turn that on, it's just a radio button in the interface, and it will start working. You don't have to go buy another box. You don't have to integrate it in a complex way. We've done that all for you, so you can get it up and running really quickly. And then importantly, this can allow you to monetize the infrastructure. So more often than not, there is a one-time allowance or budget for the deployment of these type of network infrastructures, but how do you continue to operate them? And especially when they're popular, how do you continue to grow and allow greater connectivity across the city? Well, you can start charging for use for other things other than like just community access. So maybe there's a corporate event you want to support, or there's a corporate sponsorship. Well, you can name an SSID after that particular sponsor and get funding like that. They also have a VoIP system plugged into their MS switches, which is on a separate network, allowing them to make phone calls. And using the built-in visibility in the Meraki switches, it's very easy and quick to configure, for example, all the ports that need to be on a voice VLAN by automatically identifying the phones they're plugged in using LLDP. They use Systems Manager, the mobile device manager, to push apps to city-owned devices and also to make sure they're managed, secured, and locked down in a way that they need to be. So we've got, again, a nice quote here from Jay Hadley. There's a lot of activity at the City Hall and the Wi-Fi gets used quite a bit. It's nice that I can easily create another SSID for business expos, for example, if needed. I don't even need to be there. Again, a great sign of the remote management. And they also have some really interesting uses for the Meraki technology integrated into some of their departments. So we've got this Z1 teleworker. So the Z1 teleworker is the smallest security type device that we make, and it has a USB port that allows you to plug in a 3G or 4G dongle. And they've integrated this into some of their vehicles, allowing them to do very quick services for code enforcement and animal services, where they can connect back, update paperwork and documentation, and then print it off directly from the car. And they've been very kind to show us some great photos of their installation. Really nice job on the integration into the vehicle. Very neat there. And this allows the staff to update paperwork without having to go back to the office. And that's because the Z1, the small silver box there that you can just about saying Cisco on the right-hand slide, is automatically creating a VPN using that auto VPN technology back to a larger Meraki security appliance at the town hall where all the data is residing. This is not the only way they can connect. There is also the ability to use the SSIDs being broadcast around the town with any public Wi-Fi to allow the animal services or code enforcement to also connect should, for example, they need greater bandwidth than is available over the cellular network, or the cellular network is not available at that point in time. So the access points provide coverage around the town, and again, we've got some information about additional events. In this example, the California Capitol Air Show. They use this for ticket sales at the gate, so allowing you to do EPOS, electronic point of sale, using mobile devices. You may have seen on one of my earlier slides, Square, so mobile payment services taken through an iPad or an iPhone using the small card adapter. It allows them to also power displays for vendors. So maybe they've got some small computers attached to plasma screens or LCDs wanting to broadcast messages. Well, they can get the messages to those using the wireless. Maybe they even replace those computers with Chromecasts or Apple TVs, for example, as a good way of broadcasting messages quickly to all of these screens. And they also use the Wi-Fi for access, not just for visitors, but also for the VIP tent, where they could offer a different quality of service. So the intuitive centralized management is, again, a key part of the overall solution for this customer. The remote management capabilities making it easy to create and modify network settings. And finally, another quote from Jay here. When we brought in the Cisco Meraki test unit, I thought, wow, this is really something we could deploy and manage easily. So finally, we're going to move on to the city of Visalia. Located in California, they have around 130,000 residents, and they have a slightly different use case from our previous two examples. And they have very interestingly integrated Meraki wireless and connectivity into transport services. So they have over 34 fixed route buses and 12 demand response buses, which are sort of a dial-a-ride service. They also have a downtown trolley service with 5 vehicles and a seasonal service, which they have another 21 vehicles for. So they installed a trial of a Meraki access point during the 2013 year for a marketing campaign on social media, #socialbus. And they used Cisco Meraki APs deployed to the 34 fixed route buses following that very successful program, which also integrated automatic vehicle location, allowing the vehicles to report back to dispatch about where they were and also updating end users. So it wasn't purely this social media push. Once they'd installed the APs, these were easily configured using the Meraki cloud. And again, you can provide that backhaul, that connectivity to the internet via high-speed cellular services such as 4G. And they then configured a splash page so that riders on the bus could get to the transit homepage easily. Maybe they wanted the bus times, maybe they wanted to know more about the bus they were on in particular. It's very easy to not only deploy a generic or straightforward splash page in a couple of clicks from the Meraki interface, but you can also use it to configure a completely custom interface. So if you have anyone with a little bit of web development skill, you can start pushing custom content to people, understanding exactly what bus they're on, and then saying, when they get on the splash page, this is the next destination for your bus, or this is the timetable for the bus you're currently on. And there's one SSID open across all the buses. Now, one of the really interesting things about the Meraki Wireless is that it includes this technology called CMX. And CMX is the connected mobile experience from Cisco, which includes location analytics. And we've got a quote here from the team. One of my favorite features is the location analytics. I'm in awe every time I see the passerby count. You can also see how many new people have joined, the length of time they've been connected, and what route has the most Wi-Fi usage. That's a really nice feature. And I think this is important on a number of levels. Not only is it to understand the value of the system you've deployed, you get to see the number of people that could potentially use the system by tracking and keeping count of the Wi-Fi devices nearby, but you're also understanding the people who have connected. So you can work out this sort of ratio of users who could use it versus those who are actually using it, and then see how that changes over time. And this is a great way of understanding the effectiveness of, for example, the connectivity type, as in like the splash page, or whether or not they have to enter a lot of complex details. They have to enter a lot of complex details. They might not be bothered when they're on the bus. And you can tailor and adjust the system as required. And you can also understand how the buses are operating in terms of where people are within a city. I'm just going to skip back a couple of slides actually, because we've got quite a fun picture here from their Meraki Dashboard, which shows the location of these access points. Now, this would be quite a strange picture to me as a networking engineer, why all these APs are in these particular locations. But these are actually the depot points for each of the individual buses, and this is showing where the access points would be when the bus is in its particular bay at the depot. So let's move on and have a look at how those are deployed. So they've got the ruggedized Meraki MR62 access point installed on the bus there. This is an IP67 rated AP, so you can put it in harsh environments where it's going to get wet, where it's going to get very hot, or it's going to get very cold. And they've used the standard omnidirectional access points to provide general coverage across the whole bus. So the students and citizens understandably love the free Wi-Fi. I wish the bus that I took sometimes had free Wi-Fi. It would make the journey go much quicker, although I might forget to get off when my stop comes up, as that does happen sometimes when I'm just connected to the cellular network. I think with free Wi-Fi that could become an even greater problem, but a nice one to have nonetheless. Special town events often ask for the social bus to be showcased so the audience can have free Wi-Fi. And again, it offers that ability to maybe monetize the network in a way which allows the local community to fund it, improve it, or expand it so it now reaches wider areas. I know it's going to sound boring, annoying, but again, the single pane of glass management, the cloud managed solution where everything is in one interface really has made this solution much easier for them to manage and operate on a day-to-day basis. And you'll be pleased to know that this is my last slide before we go and look at the live demo, where we'll be having that Meraki interface shown in real time. The ability to monitor the client usage, understand how effectively this system is being used, and also whether or not they need to add extra controls. A new application has come out and it's using all the cellular bandwidth that has been paid for the buses. A really great example of what you need to be careful of in a public Wi-Fi network is when you have iOS updates. iOS updates have a huge amount of data which are downloaded, and generally the devices are set up so that they download it on Wi-Fi. Well, you don't want to be having a huge cost or a huge slowdown on your network when an iOS version is released, and so you can block software updates easily within the Meraki access points to make sure that doesn't happen. Right, so let's move on and go and have a look at the demonstration. I think I've talked more than enough with some static slides. We've talked about some great things. We're going to go and look at that live. There'll be a brief pause while I flick over to my web browser where we fire up the Meraki dashboard. And I'm also going to have a chat with Whitney and Tanya to find out what questions have been coming in and maybe review any outstanding ones or any ones that seem to be following a particular trend and could be interest to a wider audience. So bear with me for the next 60 seconds. Okay, thanks for bearing with me there. I will be displaying my screen shortly. We did have a question come in about the MDM, whether or not this was a separate service. So Systems Manager, which is the mobile device management platform from Meraki, is available either separately or as part of the Meraki networking product family. So it's really quite cool because we allow you to have all the features and use all of the functionality for up to 100 devices completely for free. So you can start using it this afternoon if you want. You can go to our website, find Systems Manager, sign up, and start trying it out on iPads, iPhones, Android devices, Windows PCs, Mac desktops, or MacBook Airs. So it's not just mobile devices, also desktop management as well. So you should now be able to see my screen, and you should be able to see a picture of the world. So this is the Meraki dashboard. This is the management interface to the cloud infrastructure, and we're looking at a live production network. This is the Meraki corporate network running across the world. And it's very easy to see if there are any issues based on the color of the icon. And the larger the icon, the more devices in that particular area. So if I drill down, we can click on this one, and immediately it's drilled down into the Bay Area, and we can see that we have issues with the devices in Palo Alto, but not in the ones in San Francisco. And if we wanted to go in and see in more detail, I can say maps and floor plans, show me a map. And there we go. We've got not only Google Maps, but we also have the floor plan integrated into Google Maps as well. Or I could go and pick just one of the floor plans directly, and we can go and see all the details in there. I can then find an AP, click on it, and we'll get the greatest level of detail. And we've drilled down, and we can now see things such as what channels it's using, the amount of data that's being used, the clients that are connected, how many clients there are there. We can see this machine lobby leaderboards has used a ton of data in comparison to everyone else. And maybe we'd want to do something about that. So I talked about controls, traffic shaping, and that sort of thing. Well, let's have a look at how we do that. So we can go firewall and traffic shaping for wireless, and I can then go and create some firewall rules on the wireless SSID itself. So this is implemented on the AP. And I could create a layer 3 firewall rule, but this is going to be really complex if I want to block something like Facebook or YouTube. However, I can add a layer 7 firewall rule using an application profile, and I can pick something like YouTube. So I can go in, video and music, and I can then go and block YouTube. This is really a much easier way of configuring the type of thing that you want in terms of blocking content. But maybe I want people to have access to YouTube. I just don't want them to stream 4K 1080p definition YouTube. Well, I can remove that, and I can add a traffic shaping rule which can either limit or prioritize traffic. So in this instance, I can go back in, choose video and music, go down, choose YouTube, and then I can say only 500 kilobits per second. And I know this is sufficient bandwidth to run the normal definition YouTube, but the higher definition versions won't be able to run. But I could also add something that I don't want to limit or change the quality of service for. So I can go, let's go VoIP and video sharing, and I can go SIP voice, for example, and then I can say I want no limit, and then I want to change the quality of service to a higher level so that it gets the voice treatment that it requires. Now, this is just on the APs, but if I have a full Meraki network stack, I can go up to where it says network wide. I can then choose group policies. And what I can do is I can create policies that are applied across the Meraki network infrastructure. And these can be done not just on an SSID or a network basis. They can be done on a user group based off like Active Directory or an individual user. So if there's just one user that's causing you problems, you can go in and create rules for them. So I can click add a group, and we'll call this, let's say, bad students, for example. And I can say, right, I only want this during school hours. So 8 to 5, weekdays only, maybe a little later on a Wednesday because they have a late class on a Wednesday. In these hours, I want to block a particular thing. Or I can come down, and because this is now network wide, I get access to additional features such as the content filtering or security filtering on our security appliance. So I can go in and I can say, I want to append that blocked website category. I'm going to say no adult pornography and no academic cheating websites are allowed. Now, you probably want this to apply all the time, but in this particular example, it's only going to apply during the time periods that I have selected here. So if this was something less serious, maybe it was gaming or something like that, and we were happy for people to game outside of core hours, then this rule would be a pretty good one to implement. Now, with all of these rules, you need to understand what you want to actually configure. And it was talked about quite extensively in the case studies, which is the analytics and the visibility. And these are important because they allow you to understand what type of rules you need to implement to control the network infrastructure. So in here, I have what's known as the clients page. This is an aggregate across all the Meraki platforms you have, be that switching, be that security, or wireless, and all that data is collected together in one view about the clients and the applications that are running. Now, you don't have to have them all. If you have just one, it will show you the data for that one. So I could go up here and say, show me only data for the access points. And now this is just all the application data for the access points. I can then search this for lots of different things. So I can say, just show me the iPhones, for example. And that will now limit my query to just the iPhones on the network. Or maybe I'm interested in a particular user. So I'm interested in Raj. And now I can go in, I can look at Raj's device. And in here, we can see that this is an 802.1x login that's been matched with the user Raj. We can see where the user is. We can see they're connected to our corporate network. And we can see various details about them. Now, because we have the device management software installed on their Windows laptop as well, we have an import of even more data down the bottom. On the right-hand side, we have an application breakdown. And if I click Show Details, I can see every traffic flow for this individual user connected by the network. And we can see he's spent 21 minutes on Facebook over the last day. So maybe this is something we want to now go and address by creating a rule for Facebook that then limits or blocks the type of access or the amount of usage that people can have on Facebook. And we can see this not only on a per user level, but across the whole networking infrastructure. So here I can see all the application details for wireless across the last day. I can go and choose YouTube, and now I see all the users of YouTube for that period of time. So this data is not only very interesting, but it's then used to configure the network in an appropriate way so you can manage the right controls. Now, if we go in and I now look at, say, a security appliance, we've just switched from wireless to client data to security appliances in just a few clicks, and has a very similar look and feel, very straightforward interface that's very clear and easy to read. And I could go in and go switches, and now I can look at all the switches, and I could just pick a switch, and then this will show me information about this particular switch. Now, I know this is a switch that is a fiber switch, so I want one which has actually got end users connected. So I'm going to sort my table by active ports, and I'm then going to pick one that says access, and now this will show me a load of cool data based on all the clients connected to it. So we can see how much PoE is being consumed, we can see the ports that are providing PoE, we can see where the spanning tree bridge is, and if I click this button here that says topology, we get this automatic and really cool and useful topology diagram, which is showing how the whole infrastructure is connected. And it's then showing the traffic path from this device through our aggregation to the core of our network and then out of our WAN as well. And we can go in and we can sort of hover over any of these things that are showing an issue. We've got this yellow one here, and it's showing that power supply is offline. So maybe we can go in and investigate that. Now, if we go back to the switch I was looking at, for the switch and many other products, we have all these live tools. As an example, I can do a cable test. So I can say pick port 3 and go test that cable, or pick all of the ports and go test all of those cables. And it will check to see whether or not that device, that cable is too long. So this is within the specification for a Cat5 run. It's only 55 meters long. And what's the quality of the pairs that are connected in that cable? Maybe they're broken, maybe they're damaged, and this is why the user is reporting intermittent connectivity, or a reason why it's having duplex problems. And we can see the duplex problems and the details for all the ports by clicking in here and looking at live data about the current traffic, live data about the current PoE consumption, live data about the type of device that's connected via CDP and LDP. And I can sort this again. So if I click current traffic, I've sorted it by the amount of throughput, and unsurprisingly, the uplink for the switch is consuming the most amount of data. Now, the last thing that we're going to have a quick look at, because we did talk about location analytics and presence in the presentation, before we go back and recap with the final couple of slides, is understanding where people are, how they're moving around in an environment. Maybe you can start looking at better city planning, better public transport planning, or maybe you want to do some smart city stuff where you can redirect the traffic maybe based on understanding how people are moving around. Well, here I can pick any point in time and any day. So I'm going to pick, well, let's say I pick the 15th. And what it will do is it will load the data for that particular day onto the floor plan, or we can do it onto Google Maps or a satellite view. And then I can scroll back any point in the day and view the density of people and how they move around, even if they're not connected to the wireless, as long as they have a device with wireless on it. And if I click play, it will now play back that day and the density of people as they move around in the Meraki office. So the blue dots are people who are connected, the gray dots are people who are not even connected, and then the colors represent the density of people. And you can see now it's getting sort of pretty late in the day. We've got sort of midnight. We're now very early in the morning. We're coming up to 3 a.m. Not many people in the office at all. And then as it starts to get later, and then starts to get to the morning time, we see more people coming in, the East Coast sales team come in, and then the office starts to get busy all over again. So this is just included. I think one of the things that I need to make clear, because we haven't discussed it in great detail, is that all of the software features for the access points are included when you buy them. There's none of this cool extra features that you need to buy another box for. Everyone gets location analytics. And typically, this was something that just retailers would buy because it's very interesting to a retailer. But now this comes as standard for any Meraki customer with wireless. Local government, education, businesses can start to understand how people are moving around their environment in a way which typically would have required them to pay money for in the past, and they didn't have a good enough business justification to go and spend that money or spend time on that level of complexity. So that's a really, really short, really brief demo of some of the features of the Meraki dashboard to just give you an idea of what it's capable of. I highly recommend you contact your Meraki rep for a full demonstration to go through any other detailed questions you may have about how it works. We're now going to switch back to the slides. So we're now going to have a quick review of the product families that are available, and then we'll wrap up with any final Q&A before the end of the hour. So we've got the wireless access points, and we have a range of both indoor and outdoor access points, 802.11n all the way up to 802.11ac, very high throughput APs, all with the same software feature set. And they also include wireless mesh capability based off Meraki's history and heritage of wireless mesh, should you wish to provide like sort of pervasive citywide wireless architecture where you don't have cabling infrastructure to connect everything. We have the MX security appliances, and these are available from the very small Z1 teleworker that we saw in that example being used to provide connectivity back to city offices for code enforcement and animal welfare, for example, but also larger devices for small branch sites, and then very large devices for town halls at the center of your network infrastructure with things such as IDS, IPS, content filtering, traffic shaping, firewalling, link load balancing, cellular backup, a whole ton of features in one easy to use managed box. We have the switches, a really core component of a Meraki infrastructure. It's not mandatory to have Meraki switches to get everything I've shown you, but it adds so much value in terms of the troubleshooting, the visibility across the LAN, and all of these tools that make your life easier. Remote packet capture, cable testing, not having to go to site to find out what's wrong saves you a ton of time when you're only a small IT team, or it's not even your full job. You actually have to do something else, and IT support is just something you do as well. These are available from small 8-port switches with or without PoE up to high density 10G SFP plus switches where you can aggregate lots and lots of other switches with layer 3 functionality such as dynamic routing, DHCP support, and HA. Then finally, we've got Systems Manager, the MDM platform. I suggest you go try this today if you haven't already done so. Even if you're not planning on using it at work, I find it incredibly useful to help and support anyone I know who has IT issues and sees me as their IT person. My parents, for example, run Meraki Systems Manager on their tablets, on their phones, on their laptops, allowing me to remotely manage and help them, even though I'm not in the same continent. So hopefully I've managed to cover all of the things that are described on this site, but the dashboard, the remote management allows multi-site to be done incredibly easy. Zero-touch provisioning, you just connect the device as long as it can get to the Meraki cloud, downloads its configuration, and starts operating straight away. You can even use an app. There's a Meraki app for both iOS and Android that allows you to scan the barcode off a Meraki networking product, and it will automatically provision it with the right configuration, and you can then tag it with the GPS coordinates based on the GPS chipset in the phone, and then take a mounting photo with the app on the phone, and all of that is stored in Dashboard and automatically updated. The cloud makes sure you no longer have to worry about that day-to-day maintenance, such as firmware upgrades, backing up configs. All of that can be scheduled and taken care of automatically through the cloud infrastructure. The reporting that we showed you, that's dynamic and live, but there is also summary reporting that can also be set up to automatically email people or downloaded and sent to management teams or other people of interest as and when required. So what's your next step? Well, absolutely, you need to contact us to make sure you get your free access point. So give us a call. But maybe you want more than an AP. Maybe you want to look at an AEC AP. I highly recommend you also have a look at the switches. Well, in that case, we offer free evaluations of any Meraki products. No deposit required. It's free shipping both ways. We'll ship you a brand new product. You try it. If you don't like it, which I highly doubt, then you can ship it back to us and we'll pay for the shipping both ways. If you do decide you want it, then you can keep it because it's brand new. We're not shipping you secondhand kit that's been used for hundreds of trials. It's really annoying to have to pull it out when you want to keep it and go and get another one. You can just keep it, keep running it. That can now be your network infrastructure. And technical assistance is available with the trial as well. So thank you very much for attending today's webinar. There was a lot to go through, so it may have felt a little rushed, but I highly recommend you contact your Meraki rep to discuss your details in greater detail. Or you can attend one of our other webinars, which are more specific. They'll focus on a particular topic, such as switching, security, MDM, and then you'll get more detail and a more in-depth demonstration on those particular areas. For now, that's it. I'm going to review any last questions that may be outstanding, and I'll be back briefly to cover those off. Otherwise, have a great day, and thank you very much. So I have two questions. One of the questions is, can the APs do DNS, DHCP, VLANs, or do we need switches? They can do all of those things for you if required. So there is a special mode you can enable on the AP, and the AP then NATs all the connections out of the AP. It provides DNS, DHCP, and all resources to clients, so you don't need to worry about that at all. Or alternatively, you can configure it so it tags VLANs onto the user traffic, and then it's going to need a network-based DNS server, DHCP server, and so on, as in a typical enterprise deployment. So there are a number of choices. You don't need to have the switches. You can just use the APs. If you do have like 10 APs, you will have to plug them into something. So you do need a switch of some description, but it doesn't necessarily have to do all of these things for you. There was a question about what does Meraki do with your location analytics. The answer is we don't do anything. That data is yours. That's only for you to view. It's not available to other customers, and Meraki doesn't use that data for anything else. So we're storing that data, like the rest of the information, in the cloud network infrastructure to make your life easier. So you're not having to have all these servers and other boxes, but we're not using that. That is your data to use for what you want. Okay, thank you very much for attending. Have a great day, and do make sure you contact us to get your free AP.